Um,
Congress. Now, I know Donald Trump had a bunch of his, but Joe Biden is out of control. I mean, it's just nuts. Although I don't really blame Joe because he's not really in charge anyway. But I'm just worried about that and suppression of information. That's what I'm worried about. Thanks.
Well, I would encourage you. I actually don't know the breakdown of executive orders across administration, but I know that it is actually a really widely used tactic regardless of party. And I think the Congressional Research Service probably has some reports on that, so I'd encourage you to take a look. But I think one of the issues that you've touched on is a concern for us also, which is this functioning of government and the interplay between legislative branch, judicial branch, executive branch. And polarization has made things more challenging. Even just anecdotally, working on issues that typically would have been more bipartisan are now more challenging. And so you're absolutely right that we need to make sure that the guardrails for the legislature and the executive and the judicial stay in place and keep our democracy vibrant and strong and functioning.
Pat Buchanan, longtime Politico and columnist. Here's what he wrote on April 5th. If we make global democracy the measure of success in the great struggle of our time, our victory or defeat in that cause depends on political decisions and internal choices of scores of nations, not our own. But when did the internal politics of other lands become either the business of the U.S. or the yardstick of our success as a nation? To make global democracy our goal in this century's great battle is to allow America's success or failure as a nation to be judged and measured by what other nations, not our own, succeed or fail in doing.
I think he's absolutely right. Nobody can impose democracy in any country, but it's also no longer the case that what happens in a country stays within that country. Obviously, President Putin's invasion of Ukraine is case in point on that, but there are plenty of other examples. And so it is very important. Democracy and human rights are important in their own right, but more and more they're also one and the same as security issues. So this idea of countries reaching into democracies to surveil their opponents or to even kidnap, let's think about the recent news of Masih Alinejad, a critic of the Iranian regime, and the case that hit the news a few months ago where there was a plan to kidnap her from her home and put her in a boat and take her back to her country for the great crime of speaking out against them and criticizing them. And so if we want to all be free and prosperous, obviously there are a lot of folks in the U.S. who aren't as interested in foreign policy as some of us here in Washington get as jazzed up about. But if your desire is to have goods come quickly to your home, to have low wheat prices, what happens in these other countries does matter. And so that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, where it really is incumbent on us not to impose democracy, but to stand with the millions of people, billions of people around the world who are just trying to live in freedom to exercise their rights and defend that in their own countries.
Iran is a democracy, correct? They have elections for office.
This is one of the things that is so fascinating, and I think it's a testament to the power of the word democracy. You see a lot of authoritarians who absolutely don't have a democracy who talk about democracy, right? So Russia and China called themselves democracy, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, right? But again, this goes back to the idea that democracy isn't just elections. What is it? It is not just majority rule either. It is where folks really can express their opinions, have the person who they want to be, they can vote freely for who they want to win. And so this idea that it's just mob rule or that you can just say democracy or
Are you